What's up YouTube, Christo here, and I've got another vinyl collection for you today, Residents. I literally just did Meat Puppets and, oh, that's Meat Puppets also. Meat Puppets and Sleep, so be sure to check that video out. Two great bands, very different genres of music, but some pretty cool bands. Literally still sitting there from the video I did about 5 minutes ago. But yeah, so for this video, we're going to be looking at Residents. Now, I've kind of had a, I guess compared to how long they've been around, I've had a pretty short relationship with them, but it's been a very interesting one. A boss that I had in Indonesia, an American guy, who I've mentioned several times already on my channel. He's the one who basically really introduced me to Residents before. I had heard of them, and I was familiar with their bizarre get-up and approach and stuff, but I had really never listened to them, and you know, he just couldn't speak highly enough of them. So yeah, I eventually started checking out Residents and really enjoying some of their stuff, not enjoying some of their other stuff, and you know, I've kind of really changed my opinion on some of their stuff and stuck really firm on other stuff. But yeah, let's get into this. I've got quite a few records here. Nothing compared to their discography. Their discography is insane. But I do have a very specific era of Residents that I enjoy. And to be honest, a lot of their newer stuff, like kind of post mid-80s, I really don't like. I've found very little that I find enjoyable for me with my taste. However, some of those records are quite highly revered amongst some hardcore Residents fans. Just not really my thing. So let's get into this. First, just a little 7-inch. I only have one Resident 7-inch, or one non-12-inch, let's say. Don't Be Cruel Elvis cover with Don't Surrender? Or no, Don't and Surrender, I guess it is. I always thought it was Don't Surrender, but it's Don't and Surrender, which appear to be both written by Elvis as well. I think. I'm not a big Elvis fan, and I literally have not listened to this record yet, but I know they do theme records, like they've got their James Brown one, what is it called? And the George Gershwin one, James and George or something, I can't remember exactly. I don't have it, but it is actually a pretty cool record. So yeah, just that. I don't even think this is particularly rare. I think it's pretty easily accessible. I only paid a couple bucks for it. This is my most recent Residents purchase, Eskimo. This is a Record Store Day reissue. It's on colored vinyl, and it is numbered somewhere, I believe. Yeah, individually numbered, but I don't see the numbering. I'll get it out because it is on colored vinyl. Maybe I'll see the numbering as I'm doing that, but I do not see it. Usually it'll be like on the back or on the front or whatever, but I've listened to this a couple times. It's okay. I can't say I love it. Eskimo's a good record. Nice kind of, I don't know, lemon yellow with the iconic Ralph Records logo there. It's okay. There's some remixes and bonus tracks or whatever. Oh, there's the numbering. It's just kind of very faint is all. 522 I've got. Yeah, so yeah, side 2 I believe is just extra tracks that were not on the original Eskimo record. And these drawings in the back are by Jad Fair, which is kind of cool. Jad Fair from Half Japanese, if you're not familiar. A great band that I do not actually own any records of. Okay, you know what? I'm going to save that. Let's do this one next. So, speaking of the devil, this is Eskimo. Now, I've got an earlier pressing. It's nothing particularly desirable or rare or anything. This is a very good record, very dark, cryptic, bizarre. They kind of make up their own Eskimo language for this album. Very dark, ambient, very interesting record. I have to say, I have not listened to this in a long time because it is just really, really hard to listen to. You kind of have to be in the mood for it. It fits in a little bit too easily as background noise, so you can put it on, but you won't really pay attention. This is definitely revered as one of their better records. I can't say it isn't, but I just rarely listen to it because it is a bit difficult to kind of stew on. But it is good, and I like that pressing. It's pretty good, and even though it's not that rare. Now this is kind of what did it for me for the Residents, Duck Stab, and yeah, I didn't even know what to say about this. What an amazing album, and this is, I would say, definitely cited as being one of their best albums, one of their most celebrated, one of their most diversely sounding records, because that's another thing I do admit I get kind of bored with some Residents records, because a lot of the music isn't that different sounding, but this is just, it's out of this world. There's really not a bad track on this, but Constantinople, wow, that is amazing. And Blue Rosebuds, that weird kind of little, like the high-pitched voice that does like the little, I don't know, soliloquy or whatever towards the end is just so awesome. Weightlifting Lulu is pretty good as well. Yeah, this is like really the first Residents album I kind of took in and enjoyed. So this is quite special to me. I've looked into getting more rare pressing because this is like a really special album, but they're pretty desirable. Like I said, this definitely has a massive cult following, and yeah, like I would say a lot of people regard this as their best, if not one of, if not the best Residents record. The Tunes of Two Cities, not particularly rare, but not particularly talked about. It's just another concept record that the Residents do quite a lot. The music isn't even that great. It's a little bit too poppy and electronic for me. Almost like cartoonish, as you can probably guess from the cover. But this is an early, if not first pressing. And it's cool. I like it. It goes towards finishing my early Residents era collection, but it's not a particularly great record, I have to admit. Let's do, yeah, okay. Whatever Happened to Vileness Fats? What a bizarre, I don't know, concept, notion this came from. It was actually a film that Residents made, and this was meant to be the soundtrack to it. And the film ended up being, I can't remember what it is, but it's like 10 hours long or 8 hours long, and it was just so bizarre, and it wasn't linear at all. It was just kind of all over the place. It was just weird, conceptual, avant-garde, like you would expect the Residents to do. And there is an actual, I think it's like an hour-long version that does exist today, fairly mainstream, well, fairly accessible, let's say. And it's weird. It is really weird. You basically need notes to understand what's happening. But yeah, this is the soundtrack, or select soundtrack. It's okay. The film is weird. It's definitely weird, and this is equally weird. I don't know if I can really just put this on and kind of groove out to it, but again, it's kind of cool to have in my collection. Not available. I have to admit, this is one of my least favorite, or probably least favorite, early Residents era albums. I was really disappointed by this. MVD reissue here. and all their other early albums like Duck Stab and one or two more that I have in here were reissued on MVD, and I really like this era, and I wasn't familiar with this record at all. I ended up picking it up, and I just don't like it. I really don't enjoy this album. I don't know what it is, but it just kind of has that uniformed Residence sound that I get kind of bored with. Fingerprints, I believe this is a torso pressing. I think it is. Torso is their distributor in... Yes, Torso. Their distributor in Europe through Holland, I believe. This album doesn't really get much attention from the early Residence era albums. There's a few that definitely overshadowed, but I like this. I think this is a good record. I think this was reissued on MVD. I could be wrong, but it isn't particularly that expensive to find, and I think this is a good kind of gateway into Residence if you're looking for something other than Duck Stab and Meet the Residents. I think this is a pretty good, pretty unique sounding record that is easy to just sit and listen to. So yeah, this is it. This is it. I admit I still like Duck Stab more, but this is the Residents' first real true album. And there is some amazing music on this. It was originally pressed in 1974. I can't even comprehend that. This is just like decades ahead of its time. If you played this for me today and you just kind of cleaned up the mix a bit, I would think that this was literally an avant-garde band from today. I believe that's the original cover art. I could be wrong, but I know this was not the original cover art. I think it was the Shrimp Head Dudes. This obviously is a take on Meet the Beatles. Now, there's two tracks in here that are really, really big for me. Now, Energy, the last song, is kind of like a mix of different songs, kind of pop songs put together, and the Nobody But Me version is amazing. I absolutely love it. And yeah, Smelly Tongues is pretty cool. And there's a few others that really stand out on here, but those are kind of like the big ones. Breath and Length and Spotted Pinto Bean, really great record. This is a reissue as well. That's the MVD logo up there, or MVD download code that's very distinguishable. Very, very reasonably priced, and I think this is kind of the ultimate introduction to Residence as well. The commercial album, I don't know why. I really don't understand why this doesn't get as much love or get as much credit as other Residence albums. I would honestly say after Duck Stab and Meet the Residents, this is my favorite Residence record. The whole concept is that it is meant to be anti-commercial. This album is literally 40 tracks, each of which is exactly a minute long. Now, the whole concept being that a 60-second song is completely unmarketable. There's no way it's going to be a pop hit. There's no way it's going to be, in the top 40. It's just impossible to market that as a hit song. So that's kind of what they did with this record, which is really cool. I think this album there's just too many songs to go through. They're, in my opinion, all listenable. They're weird. They're unique. They're different. The sounds, the tracks on here differ so much in sound. Over the 40 tracks that are on here, and they all pretty much have some structure as well, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, this isn't the easiest to find. It has not been repressed as far as I know, but I've not really been following Residence for a while now, at least their vinyl releases. Mark of the Mole, a lot of people cite this as one of their favorite or one of the best Residence albums, and I have to say I'm very unfamiliar with this. I don't think I've even put this on my turntable yet. And way back in the day when I had the MP3s, I was more into Duckstab, so I've never really given this much of a chance. Not saying I'm dismissing it, but I just really have not listened to it yet. It's meant to be a concept album as well, which I'm not even going to get into because I do not know what the concept is, or I don't remember. It's obviously something about the mall people, or I don't even remember, but it is cool. I think this is a Torso record as well. Maybe not. I guess it is a Ralph Records. There is a very desirable brown pressing. This is just a black pressing. This one, I don't know, I've never really been able to get into this record. The Third Reich and Roll MVD reissue, as you can tell. This is basically a, I don't know, pastiche or a compilation of like pop music made into, like, I believe it's 2 sides. All the tracks are really long, that's what I'll say, and they're all kind of a mix of shorter songs that they've kind of redone. Now, controversial with this, you can actually see there are swastikas on the record. Now, I've read that in Germany they had to like censor the artwork because swastikas are illegal, or Nazi swastikas are not allowed to be shown in public or whatever. I'm not exactly sure, but they definitely have had censored versions of it. This definitely gets some praise for or from Residence fans. It's honestly never really done anything to me. It didn't wow me or anything. Yeah, I think there's only 2 tracks in this. I honestly haven't listened to this in a long time. Just never really stood out to me in their, you know, kind of vast discography, even though it's an earlier album. But, yeah, anyways. Unfortunately, I'm not hugely into Residence right now. I shot this video, like, I don't know, probably about 7 months ago when I was hugely into Residence. So I was probably a lot more enthusiastic about them then, but I just scrapped the video because I had so many problems uploading, and you know, now I'm just kind of, I still love Residence, but I'm just not listening to them like I used to. But I'm still a phenomenally outrageous avant-garde American band who have, you know, vastly changed, you know, indie underground avant-garde music without a doubt. So thanks for watching for that, and you know, I've still got lots and lots and lots of more records to put in my collection or show in my collection, so stay tuned for those, and you know, thanks for watching.